please take a look at New Dawn on Facebook or the New Dawn website, and you'll see some of what is on here. There's stuff all week long, and we hope you'll come back. The other part of the announcement is just to point out the little red box over there. If anyone is so moved to make a donation to New Dawn, to its drive to complete the purchase of the building, to raise funds for matching grants that we're in line for, and to support all the programming that we do here, that would be much appreciated. Since you're here for a literary event, I'll also point out that Eric's going to be signing books and selling books after the reading, and you can buy his books and the money will go directly to him. But if buying one book is not enough for you, we also have a small bookshelf over there of the other people who are part of the writers group. And if you buy those books, a portion of your money goes as a donation to New Dawn. There's also some seltzers over there if you get thirsty during the reading, and I think that's all there is to say, except that Fred is going to introduce our featured reader for tonight and tell you a little bit about the New Dawn Writers Group. So thank you very much, welcome again, and here's Fred.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Simon. So welcome, so glad you're all here. We're going to get to hear ESP, Eric, tonight, and I'm so happy. I met Eric maybe a year or two ago and doing open mics in the Worcester area, and then he joined our writers group because he lives like the next town over in Gardner. So let me read you what he has in the back of his book. He says, struggles with depression, substance abuse, parental alienation, abandonment, and marriage ending in divorce. The author has had a lifetime of experiences. Add to that, he has witnessed working in human services for the past 24 years. And you can understand why ESP's poetry has served as both a coping mechanism and a passion for him. This book he's going to be reading from, Brutal Rhymes in Brutal Times, is a compilation of the author's lifelong love affair with writing. Many of these poems are about or even written during particularly brutal times in his life. He says, quote, some of these poems are brutally sad, some are brutally funny, some are brutally honest. They are brutal. Even if I write a bad poem, it won't just be bad, it'll be brutally bad. Please welcome ESP.
Hi everybody. I don't think I really need a mic. I'm a pretty loud guy. As I said, I'm Eric, or ESP, and tonight I was going to read you some poems from my book, Brutal Rhymes, Brutal Times, and then at the time after that, I'll read something to tell you a little bit about a new project that I'm working on. I did bring notes. The first poem I'd like to read tonight is called I Didn't Ask to Be Born. Now this poem, it's funny how poems come to you. This one actually started as just a phrase that had kind of stuck with me. Somebody had said, I didn't ask to be born, and I didn't say it to them, but I'm like, that's got to be the biggest cop-out. You know, nobody asks to be born. And then I just started kind of writing and riffed off that. And I had most of the poem written, but I still really didn't know what it was about. So I had to reread it, and I figured out it was just kind of about life. And thinking about life and being born, and I remembered an incident that had happened to me before that, where a young woman had come and she was considering having an abortion, and she wanted to talk to me because I was older, she was younger, and she said I reminded her of her father. And that's what kind of, that's when I wrote the beginning and the end of the poem were kind of an afterthought. You know, and it really made me think too, how about, because my mother was only 18 when she had me, and she must have been a very scared, pregnant teenage girl. I didn't ask to be born. She said I reminded her of her father. She had come to ask my advice. Of course, I told her it was wholly her choice. I told her I didn't ask to be born. I never asked to be torn from a soothing, warm, amniotic bath into the chill of a frigid world, shivering and screaming. I didn't ask to be born, but I cried out for the tit, plump and milky. I didn't ask for the glorious sunshine beating down upon my face, bringing warmth like a mother's hug. I made no queries or arrangements to be bullied on the playground and called Four Eyes, which I guess is better than a cyclops with his lack of depth perception. I didn't ask to be born. I was not made to fit into your rigid cookie-cutter paradigm. I am the triangle in a child's wooden-shaped peg puzzle. I can fit into the circle, but not securely, and am exposed on all sides. I didn't ask to be born. I did not inquire about the small, still hours of a winter's night, dozing near the wood stove, safe and warm, whilst flickering flames project dreams in the shadows on the walls and floor. I didn't ask to be born. It's a catch-22. You'd have to be crazy to ask for the pain, the sickness, and the suffering. Who would ask for the small, still hours of a winter night, lonely and shivering in the dark, whilst watching nightmares projected in the shadows cast by passing motor cars on the walls and floors? Getting out of it seems a natural and human response, like AI or war. Mean little boys building and knocking down each other's sandcastles, built in a sandbox full of sand fleas, except the sand is soaked in blood. I didn't ask to be born. I didn't ask for the elevated blood pressure, sacred release of oxytocin and dopamine of an intense orgasm, but I'll take it, along with a handful of SSRIs. I didn't ask to be born. I didn't ask for pickles on this misshapen, flavorless, sorry excuse for a burger which looks nothing like the picture. I didn't ask for yet another flavor of Oreo cookies. Who keeps asking for this? Is it you, Fred? I think it must be you. I didn't ask for these sharp and jagged and dangerous memories. You know, the ones capable of opening a vein or an artery. Because the end is part of it too. The last part, with its eulogies, fragrant flowers, and decay. I didn't ask for any of it. I didn't ask to be born. I didn't ask for your kiss, sweet and soft, with just a hint of bitter, warm red wine lingering on your lips. I didn't ask for this music or this dance, spinning and floating across the dance floor, lost in your eyes and just a little drunk on bitter, warm red wine. No, I didn't ask to be born. And yet, still, I think it is a miracle. I told her I don't know a woman that's gone through with it and not been haunted by what could have been. And when I heard it was done, of course, I understood. But I also felt grateful to a scared, impregnate teenage girl from long ago. I felt grateful that I am not the ghost in this poem.
Oh.
Thank you. Yes. So kind of on the subject of being born, you know, obviously a big event in my life is when my son Teddy was born. Theodore, who's with us here tonight. You know, and when he was younger, we had a hobby. We used to go out and we'd build model rockets and shoot them off. It was something I actually did in middle school, and then it was, you know, it was so much fun that when I had kids, I wanted to kind of pass it on to them. So this poem is for Teddy. It's called Rockets. And your vocabulary word for this poem is apogee, which is the highest point you can reach before you start coming down. Go look among the spent, crinkled tubes of rubber cement, piles of balsam trim, kite string, and old dented plastic nose cones. You will find my heart somewhere in all that clutter. Watch the magical sparkling sputter of a model rocket taking lift. Snips and snails and puppy dog tails and a colicky whale. For every successful launch, there was an epic fail. More than a mere man, I was just a dad. And when the boy left, the dad was so sad, it broke the mere man in two. Once just a boy, now merely a man, toss away grandma's old wooden crutches. Tall and proud now stand. We built rockets. Elon Musk, he's got nothing on us because we built rockets to the stars and the moon. We built rockets, you and I, rockets to soar up high in the sky. And when you reach apogee and are weightless for but a moment, spare but a second to think of me before your moment is gone. You're floating safely back to Earth. I did all that I could for whatever that's worth, and the world never looked the same. We built rockets, reaching for the heavens where the gods callously cast down our fates. If ever you find yourself in need of that dulcet tone that once lulled you to sleep amid the city green, then look to this tone and know that you are never alone, no matter how it may seem. I had a sore throat lately, so a little bit hoarse. There's also, I have one more poem that I kind of wrote to Teddy, but it's not just for Teddy. It's, if I can find it. It's for everybody of his generation. There was a time when he was a teenager, and you know how that teenagers are, and that was kind of the time when we became estranged. This is a short poem, but I've added a little bit to it to kind of make it more understandable. It's called Gray Matter Not. And gray matter like the gray matter of your brain, and then matter not like it doesn't matter. It's a little bit of double meaning. You'll find I got a couple things in the book that kind of double meanings. This angst that pains you, it is your birthright. You have so much to be angry about. The violent and poisoned earth we've let you. Lost in a vortex of an underdeveloped prefrontal cortex. Brains not fully developed. Even the things you think you should be angry about are not the things you have this right to be angry about. Someday it will be the very thing that sustains you. Don't give up that fight. Let your ire be the fire that burns down the very world. Let it kindle a desire to rebuild it all anew. Find a better way and remake the world. This next poem is, after writing it, is kind of when I first came up with the title Brutal Rhymes for Brutal Times. As a lot of you that know me might know, I am a recovering addict. And I'm glad to say I've been clean and sober for many, many years now. And one of the hardest parts about addiction is withdrawal. And kicking the habit. So they say a lot of people don't know where the phrase kicking the habit comes from. People think, oh, just kick the habit away, as if it was that easy. It actually comes from when you're getting through a draw, you become very dehydrated and you get these painful leg cramps. And you kind of kick. That's never try to sleep next to somebody that's going through a draw. You're gonna get kicked. All right, this is called kicking. It actually starts slow and mild. It begins with a faint pounding in your heart and a growing unease in your gut. However, you know what's coming in the mail. It's that long-dreaded bill come due, and you resign yourself to pay. Pay in full you will. You wake in the small hours of night from a fevered dream, carrying the pale ashen faces of friends long dead. They are the faces of fallen comrades, taken by your shared disease that is a war. Your nightshirt soaked in sweat. Around your neck you wear a slave's collar made of ice. You've long lost the itch, but the muscles of your calves, they spasm and they twitch. The vice-like pain in your hamstrings, it's excruciating and exquisite. You need the pain to stop and thrash like a panicked drowning victim. You know you are dehydrated. However, the very notion of water in your stomach sends you kneeling and violently heaving before the devil's throne. There you leave a meager offering of mostly mucus and stomach bile. Sobbing with your cheek adhered to the bathroom tile, you think just a few milligrams will keep the beast at bay. And then you think, fuck all that, I'm kicking this shit today. This time for good. And then despite yourself, outside yourself, you watch as you tear apart the medicine cabinet anyway. This all happens before the opiates loosen their grip on your bowels, because then the real shit show does commence. You can call out sick over the long holiday weekend and kick in your own bed at home. You can kick in some state-sponsored detox that smells like the janitor's closet of a nursing home at dawn. You can kick in some plush seaside resort. You can kick in a 6x8 jail cell. But it's all an illusion. It's nothing but painted, packed-up scenery, fodder for your fevered dream. Because as every addict knows all too well, there's really only one place you kick, and that place is hell.
Wow.
So besides from the physical aspects of addiction, the psychological ones can be much worse. This poem, I'm just going to read it. Sweet sadistic mistress, sigh upon sigh, cry upon cry, lie upon lie, buy after buy, to live or to die. You left me here, battered and bruised, tattered and used, broken, again and again. And still I come crawling back to your sweet sadistic warmth, to your soft serenity, to your mother's arms. You always help me to make it through another day, to make the fears just melt away, to blunt the edge of a cold, hard razor blade world. Baby, we had chemistry, and we had comfort. I leaned upon you through the hard times, and you took me for all that I was worth, and took me for every last cent. And still, I long for you. I hear you calling my name, and I burn for your cold, pin-prick kiss. There's going to be some lighter stuff, too. This next poem was actually written in the hospital after a suicide attempt when I was very young. And that was kind of when I first realized that the drugs and alcohol, the grip they had on me, and that something really had to change. It's called Fillers. I guzzled down companionship from a black label whiskey bottle. I popped on down the intimacy that came in a little red gel capsule. I inhaled the sweet green love found snuggled in a burning bedsheet, just to fill the aching void. But when the whiskey bottle ran dry, when the pill bottle on the table empty and lie, when the herbs were all spent, when dirty knees fell to dirty earth and sorrow-filled voices echoed out in repent, still the aching void remained. Still, the icy emptiness remains. This next poem I'm actually going to read twice. I'm going to read it once and then talk a little bit about it, and then read it again, see if you don't see it in kind of a different light. It's called Tangerine. Life could be so tranquil and serene when you're living aboard an orange submarine. You can bang all day on your tambourine when you're living aboard an orange submarine. Forget that nameless horse. Apply yourself a brand new course when you're living aboard an orange submarine. Mr. Octopus, he's got 8 arms for hugging. Now that's a lot of loving. When you're living aboard an orange submarine, blue skies overhead, no monsters under the bed, sunshine on my tongue, we'll be having so much fun when you're living aboard an orange submarine. Do you think that we can find some place to be free? Somewhere under the waves of the sea. I'll be the king and you'll be my queen when we're living aboard an orange submarine. I know it sounds happy, right? But of course I'm going to ruin it for you. What this poem is really about, though, is actually another drug that I have kind of mixed feelings on it about. Because it was a drug that helped me get off opiates, but still, Purdue Pharma and this and the cycle of human misery that they're profiting on is just it's unreal. This poem is actually about Suboxone, which is a drug. It's an opiate blocker. So you take it, and the first couple times you take it, you still have those the feeling of euphoria. But after that, you continue to take it, it actually blocks any other opiates from working. And it can even, if you try to take other opiates, it can even send you into withdrawal. And it's a little orange pill, less tangerine. And of course, like anything on the streets, they can be abused, and people call them subs. Therefore, submarine. And that the octopus is kind of like addiction. There's this Simpsons gag where Homer, he buys a lobster, and he brings it home, and he doesn't have the heart to cook it. And when you see through Homer's eye, he's looking through the lobster, he's this big, friendly cartoon lobster with this big smile. And then they cut and they show it through as the lobster really is, and it's kind of looks like a real lobster, grotesque, these eye stalks and stuff. And that's kind of the octopus's like addiction, that once it feels so great to begin with, but then before you know it, it's got its tentacles around you. I always think of like the salesmen that used to come into town and sell patent drugs, you know, which turned out really to be mostly either morphine or cocaine, you know, to an unsuspecting public. So I'll read this one more time. And it's kind of tricking some things in, like in the tradition of Bob Dylan, like his Mr. Tambourine Man, which you know, it seems like a happy, but it's really about a drug deal. And what's the one? America, the horse with no name. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. Life could be so tranquil and serene when you're living aboard an orange submarine. You could bang all day on that tambourine when you're living aboard an orange submarine. Forget that nameless horse. Plot yourself a brand new course when you're living aboard an orange submarine. Mr. Octopus, he's got 8 arms for hugging. Now that's a lot of loving. When you're living aboard an orange submarine. Blue skies overhead, no monsters under the bed. Sunshine on my tongue, we'll be having so much fun. When you're living aboard an orange submarine, do you think that we can find some place to be free? Somewhere under the waves of the sea. I'll be the king and you'll be my queen when we're living aboard an orange submarine. This next poem has kind of got double meaning, so I've gotten mixed reactions to it. People kind of smile when they first hear it, but there's kind of a twist to it too. It's called My Favorite Blue Flannel. The weather outside is growing colder. The autumn days condense and get shorter. I opened up the closet today in search of my favorite blue flannel. There it hung, such a lovely shade of blue. So bright, and the material so soft, too. When first I had seen it in the store, I wanted it so much it hurt. It was love at first sight. I knew I had to have it, and yearned to make it mine. And when I did, I wore it every day and night. It felt so very fine. I showed it off to all my family and friends. They all said, it suits you perfect and fits you just right. I put it on today in earnest, but now I felt a little too snug and tight. The sleeves didn't quite reach my wrists anymore. I said, that's all right. Yet I knew that it wasn't deep down in my core. It being my favorite, I said I would wear it anyway. Standing before the mirror, I buttoned up my favorite shirt. I could feel the fabric stretching, binding across my chest, so tight it hurt. I could feel it constraining, cloying, and suffocating. I felt ready to burst. I could not tolerate anymore. Angrily, I wrested the fabric from my flesh. Black buttons popping clattered to the floor. Enraged, I balled it up and flung it to the corner. Red-eyed and bare-chested, I slowly peered into the mirror. What the hell was I doing? Suddenly, I felt so very drained and weak. I quietly retrieved the flannel from the corner. I pressed the soft fabric to my cheek. I thought of all the time we had spent together and everything that we'd been through. I remembered every off-season trip to Maine and every backyard barbecue. It had once fit so perfect. I tenderly sewed back on each button. As I ironed, it gave me time to reflect. What happened? Had it shrunk in the lonely cold water dance of the washing machine? I know I had grown complacent and soft around the waist. It's only natural time wore away some of the luster and sheen. It wasn't the same as I once was, to be fair. Maybe it was my own damn fault. Maybe I should have taken better care. Maybe I should have sought professional dry cleaning. Oh, By the way, I signed the divorce papers today. Then I headed out to Goodwill. I left them at the lawyer's office along the way. Although deep in my heart, I felt it was a sin. I left my favorite blue flannel there in the donation bin and walked away with a tear in my eye. Wash, rinse, repeat. Thank you. All right, now let's cheer up a little bit. I'm so glad to see someone in the back of the room that from the Openest Mic. She's great, and I had seen. Let me find the page first. I had seen her one time in this interview, and she had on this like big pink mohair sweater and these big plastic sunglasses, and I thought to myself, this girl's a rock star, but she writes poetry. She's a poem star. So this is inspired and dedicated to all the lovely ladies who come to open mics and share their beautiful poetry. Poem star. She wore these big plastic sunglasses and a fuzzy purple mohair sweater. She seemed like the type of girl I'd like to get to know better. She stepped up to the mic and blew me away with her verse and prose. And although she never took off a single stitch of clothes, I never seen a woman stand more naked and courageous. Her similes were sublime and her rhymes were just outrageous. Her kinky mixed metaphors had me begging for more. She's a poem star, and she's rocking the open mic at the bar. She's a poem star, and when she bares her soul, I just can't help but lose all control. Poem star, she's lighted up the stage. You can see her heart just dripping off the page. Poem star, where have you been all my life? By the way, there's no need to mention any of this to my wife. You can just imagine the allure when she rocked the mic and I am the pentameter. Poem star, burning so hot and bright, you can catch her here any given Monday night. So one night, after the show, I approached her. I told her how her poetry had moved me so. She said, "Let me tell you now, baby, I got just one rule. I don't do haiku." Oh, Poem Star, you're driving me crazy. Poem Star, I think I love you, baby. And now that I talked a little bit about I don't know how I'm doing on my time here. I gotta do at least one, I think. The next project I'm working on is actually going to be called Memos from the Milieu. And it's going to be kind of based around things I've seen working in mental health. And instead of chapters, it's going to have rooms, like room 1, room 2, a sensory room, a med room, a day room.
Rubber room.
What's that?
Rubber room.
Rubber room, that's actually, I'm thinking of that one. This poem is called Simile-like Therapy. I have decided my therapist must have a great affinity for poetry, or is halfway blind. Since she navigates through doors, down hallways, and about the room flawlessly, like a graceful ballerina, it must be the poetry. In particular, she must love similes. With the repetitiveness of a trained parrot, she is forever asking, what does it look like? What does it look like when you're depressed? What does happiness look like for you? What does anger look like? What does it look like when you're scared? Sitting across from me, She looks at me as if I am a giant overflowing tin bucket of oysters. Oysters just waiting to be shucked in hopes of finding that one perfect pearl of a simile, the one that will change everything, like in a Steinbeck novel. But really, it changes nothing. It brings only more pain, like in a Steinbeck novel. She asked me a question, and I want to give my therapist what she wants. I want to tell her how contentment looks like a steaming hot cup of coffee and a cigarette first thing in the morning. I want to tell her how happiness looks like a fleeting glance and a smile from the pretty new brunette in the office. I want to tell her how fear looks like a recurrent nightmare of my young son being pulled lifeless from the water with blue face and purple lips. I want to tell her how depression is like the 300-pound villain in professional wrestling, the one with the scary black makeup that pins me down, except instead of a 3 count, I can't get up out of bed for days or weeks. I want to tell her how grief looks like the haunted image burned into my brain of my dead mother in a hospital bed with her mouth slightly agape and rigor mortis setting in. I want to tell her how it crushes me like a giant cartoon boulder and leaves me sobbing in the middle of the night like a scared little boy. I want to tell her how betrayal bears a striking resemblance to a 6-inch blade embedded in my kidneys as I bleed out in some back alley or courtroom while staring perplexed into the eyes of the woman I loved, the woman I thought loved me. I desperately want to tell my therapist all of these things. I want to yell and scream like a banshee or a million other cliche comparisons. Spewing saliva, I want to get in her face like a Major League Baseball umpire calling a runner out. I want to grab hold of her and shake her like a British nanny with some rich snob sniveling little brat. But what I really want, the only thing I really want, is to make her or you or someone, anyone, understand this pain. But suddenly the words have all vanished. Like a sleek buddy in a magician's top hat, like a sleek getaway car in a well-planned bank robbery, like a Thomas Lux poem in a Paul Slovak's magic trick. And the similes have all dried up and withered away like the wilted petals of a week-old yellow rose in an opaque purple dry vase, sitting in the center of a rustic old wooden table, backlit by a window where dust motes walls in the slowly fading final sunbeams of the day. I'm sorry, what was the question again? What does it look like when I'm not doing well? What does it look like when I'm decompensating? I don't know. Not good, I guess. Except for a couple more. But they're not all going to be about mental health. I'd like to shake it up, do different things. And as you may have realized, I'm not much of a nature poet. I don't do a lot of poems about nature, but I'm trying. This is called Nature Poem Attempt number 58. Squirrels, eh? They're everywhere. Nutty little fuckers. Feeding acorns and living frantically from day to day, loser rodent burnouts, miniature paisley bandanas tied over their furry brows, little mammal brains simmering in the heavy summer heat, living for that nutty fix, forever chasing that next acorn, cashing nuts in dens and underground pantries, enough to OD on, enough to gorge themselves to death. But they say their squirrel memories are short. They forget where they buried their stashes. Oak trees burst to life in vaguely familiar places, locations of fuzzy patchwork scenes from last night's squirrel bender. Squirrels, eh? Their little furry gray souls empty and hungry, looking to feed it with the next pill, berry, line, seed, home shopping network cosmetic product or nut. The thing about squirrels is, not forgetting thing, that's just a myth. Because the squirrels, they see and I know I'm pushing it on. This one is called A Christmas Intake. Outside, the requisite snow falls. You bleed the prerequisite blood. You answer the requisite questions and ingest the requisite drugs. You get the requisite stitches and speak of a prerequisite plan. You shed the requisite tears. Later, Matt comes to get you and walk you up to the 3rd floor. It's always just been called the 3rd floor. Matt is working tonight because he is behind in his alimony payments. And besides, she gets the kids tonight anyway, court ordered. He slides the key through the scanner. The light blinks green like a Christmas tree. The door closes. The light grows red, like Rudolph's nose, but with a great solemn finality. You follow Matt down the hallway. You pause at a room where baby sits on the floor Indian style. Except you can't say Indian style anymore. She wears a too tight purple dress. Except you can't comment on the tightness of a woman's dress anymore. Her purple feathered brain binder makes her look like a flapper from the 1920s. A time when you could still say Indian style and comment on the tightness of a woman's dress. She is making construction paper chains, like the kind you put on the Christmas tree as a kid and got to stay up late watching Christmas cartoons and were still laying in bed awake when the old man stumbled in drunk and you would hear the crescending fight and the yelling that culminated with the glass smashing against the wall and drift off to sleep listening to mother's sugar plum sobbing dancing in your head. You remember those, don't you? The chains, anyway. She's tearing the red and green strips with her mouth, leaving the ends moist and dark with saliva. No scissors or shoelaces allowed here. She scribbles the words and metaphors of trauma on each one of the links. She stops and looks up at you with your bandaged forearm. How much longer will your chains be, Ebenezer? She asks in her best faux Christmas voice and cackles maniacally. I see I'm late for time, so I'm going to skip to the last one. This was actually written very recent, and so now it's like kind of one of my new favorites. It kind of shows a gentler side to ESP. It's called Lunatics Like Us. Sorrow brews and percolates with the morning coffee. A quiet sadness that spreads to every corner of the morning like butter on toast, saturating it. Born of a covalent despair and in need of chemical alterations. We met and fell in love on the MHU, despite the 1,000,001 reasons not to. We dreamed one day we would build a little log cabin on the moon. Because lunatics like us, after all, we belong to the moon. Like Parisians belong to Paris, and Cretans belong to Crete. Up there with the man, or fishing in a little boat on the sea of tranquility. Perhaps mining for Gouda or blue cheese. So high up and far away in the sky, above all our earthly troubles. We would bathe in the moonlight like Bathsheba, and make love slowly, and in such a way as to pay homage to all the lovers who would kiss beneath us. We'd have moon babies and build lunar schools to send them to. We'd always be safe and warm on the moon. There would be no hunger or thirst. We would eat moon pies until we were stuffed and never have to worry about our weight. We'd drink moonshine mixed with Tang, and our only imports would be air and insulin. The pills you took you from me. The weight of your despair, just too heavy on earth. It leaves each of my mornings soaked in sadness. But tonight, I will go outside and look up at the sky. I'll see the moon and think, maybe you're up there with the man, or fishing in a little boat on the Sea of Tranquility, perhaps mining for Gouda or blue cheese. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Round of applause for ESP.
Oh, did you want me to? Did you want?
So we're going
Does
to,
anyone have any questions?
yeah, any questions for ESP? About poetry, about anything?
Eric, I know ESP, but what were you thinking of when you decided to call yourself?
Oh, it's actually, I just noticed one day that I'm Eric Stephen Petersen. So it's just my initials. And I get that a lot, which I've kind of just used my initials as my pen name for a long time. But I do get people thinking, oh, is it got something to do with paranormal or psychic? It really doesn't, you know.
Could be.
Yes.
How long does it take you to write a poem?
That varies a lot. I mean, I have some that come out, I can write it in a few minutes, and then it's done. I've had others I've worked on for years even, and just keep rewriting and rewriting. It varies so much.
More questions? All right, well,
Thank you.
we have.